Hey, Brett, how are you tonight, buddy?
Doing good, Sensei. How about you?
Oh, not bad, man. We were talking earlier today about this video and this idea, this concept pertaining to knife fighting. You said you wanted to kind of talk a little bit about. So, why don't you jump in there and let's get it started?
Yes.
What's up?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my biggest pet peeves is whenever you post a video, whether it's knife defense, that we'll talk about, for this context, but really it could be about anything self defense related. There's always someone in the comments talking about, well, try that against a colleague match or try that against a knife fighter. Um, I don't know about you. I don't know any knife fighters. I've never met a knife fighter. And even someone who may have used a knife in a self-defense situation, I wouldn't necessarily classify them as a knife fighter either. There's a big difference between someone who trains in an air-conditioned, padded dojo, and they're using plastic training knives, doing the 12 angles of attack, and let's say someone who's done 5, 10 years in prison and is able, and willing to take a sharp piece of metal and run it through skin and muscle and bone and tendon, get covered in bodily fluids, and they're willing to watch the life, leave your body. That's the person I'm concerned about, not the Kali master, not the guy who, people online, like, they want to pretend to be knife fighters. Like,
Right.
like you're not a knife fighter. And like I said before, even if you happen to use a knife once in a self-defense situation, that doesn't mean you're a knife fighter. Like, I can't go out here, get into a fight, use a brick, and all of a sudden now I'm a brick fighter. Like that, like that's not how it works.
Right.
Um, so people need to put things in perspective, but and stop taking things to the most ridiculous and the most extreme circumstances. You know, um, like a couple months ago, I posted some grappling videos, and I got the same thing coming up again. Well, that wouldn't work against Conor McGregor. That wouldn't work against John Danaher. And I'm like, you know what? You're probably right. It may not. If I end up in a fight with Conor McGregor, I've done something wrong. you know
Right.
and this idea of, like, well, try that against this high level person or that high level person. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't know too many high level martial arts masters who are going out here mugging people. and
Right.
and if we're talking self-defense, then we have to put things in context.
Right.
Like like there's a big difference between fighting and self-defense. There's a big difference between sport fighting and real fighting. Like everything has a context, everything has a place. And if you want to judge the efficiency of something, you have to judge it based on the context it was created for. I mean, you wouldn't judge the efficiency of archery because it doesn't work in the octagon. Like, it's not built for that. It's not
Right.
made for that. So, if we're talking about self-defense, like, it is completely separate. That actually reminds me of a really good analogy you had, something about first aid, medical training, something like that, about self-defense and martial arts. Can you explain that again?
Yeah. So just essentially the thing that I've been really focused on, one of the ways that I can refer to everything is that self-defense is like first aid. You have to have
Okay.
something. It's not even that it's not something that's going to take you a year, 2 years to learn. Self-defense is something immediate. First aid is
Okay.
immediate response right now. So you're not going to grab me, choke me, and I'm going to go through this. Okay, let me do 10 different techniques, and then when I'm done, I'm going to yell and scream and throw a fireball at you. You're going to
Yeah.
grab me, I'm going to jab you in your throat, and you're probably not going to respond in all honesty. And then I'm going to kick you in the groin. You're probably not going to respond. So I'm going to kick you in your knee again, and I might get a response out of you. And then I'm going to run
Right.
like a bat out.
Right.
Like anything.
And okay, so then if self-defense is like first aid, would you say then that, like, traditional martial arts training is more like brain surgery?
Of course. And then that's where we turn into, the idea of, well, why would you train under a martial artist or a karateka that doesn't have a proper licensing or a proper certification from, like, Korea
That's
or Okinawa or something
that,
like that?
that is a whole other rabbit hole.
I mean, it's
You
the
know,
nature of the beast.
no, no, it is. But no, that whole first aid, brain surgery analogy, I like it because it's true. I mean, the martial artists, like, they go through extensive training. They dedicate years and decades of their life to master their craft, just like the brain surgeon, right? And obviously, the brain surgeon can perform first aid. Like, the brain surgeon can stitch you up, they can stop the bleeding, they can do CPR, they can do all these things. Just like the martial artist, in theory, should be able to defend themselves and teach self-defense. But
In theory.
no, in theory, and that's something that I want to touch on in just a second. But someone who's just looking for self-defense, they don't have to do kata for 10 years. They don't have to get a uniform, go through the belt ranks, learn all these traditional skills and all these supplemental training, if their only goal is to feel safe at night. I mean,
right.
Like, to me, if someone is coming to you looking for self-defense, it is intellectually dishonest to tell them, you know what, stick with this for 10 years and you'll be able to defend yourself. I'm sorry that you have to go home tonight and probably get raped, but just keep training and eventually you're going to be a badass.
I would agree with that. I think one of the issues, and I think more specific, would be, as martial arts instructors, no matter what style or system or idea that we come from, that's everything from Krav, from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to karate to whatever, people teach self-defense like a martial arts instructor teaches martial arts.
Yeah.
You have this random average individual that doesn't have any training, and then you've got this one individual that's a natural athlete, and then you've got this other individual that's been attacked, raped, beaten, whatever. You put them together on the floor, and they're all going to function differently. But you're going to naturally, most martial arts instructors will gravitate towards the more athletic individual because they're more flexible, they're more, they're more competitive. They want to do these different things. And then you have these other two on the outskirts that are suffering.
Right.
If I'm going to teach self-defense, I'm going to teach self-defense. I'm not teaching you to obtain a belt. Now, granted, the style of martial art that I teach, the style of martial art that you teach, it encompasses the entire principles, theories, and ideas of self-defense, which is a whole nother topic for a different day. But that's what we teach. Yeah. And so, yes, you may come in and learn your basic stances and your basic techniques, but every single thing that you learn from the moment you walk in the door, it has a purpose. You have the purpose. You don't just stand here like this, and there's no movement for it. Well, why am I doing it?
No, you know what? It's funny you bring that up. Like, I was teaching a class last night, and talk about application. Everything has a purpose. Even just a regular standing bow, it has a purpose. You and I get into a heated discussion. We're doing like this whole, peacocking thing, blowing up in each other's faces. Which, by the way, anyone who does that just deserves to get, you deserve to get knocked out. Like if we're sitting here this close, like, you deserve to get slept. But anyway, talking about the purpose of bowing, right? Well, my instructor always told me that before I practice any of my self-defense techniques, I must bow and show respect to my partner. Well, if my opponent happens to be right here, and my forehead happens to crack into his nose as I do my bow, that's self-defense.
Yeah.
So everything has a purpose. So a few minutes ago, we talked about how a martial artist, in theory, should be able to defend themselves.
Right.
One of the things that I don't see enough of, and I will admit, I have not been to every single school in the world. I am sure there are some fantastic martial artists who practice real self-defense by our standards, or by, not even by our standards, but by our definition. But the majority of people think self-defense, is practicing like counterattacks and practicing wrist escapes and choke escapes and one-step drills. But that's not self-defense. Like, self-defense training, at least to me, is 100% psychological. It involves repeated exposure to stress and duress and understanding how the body functions in that heightened state. It doesn't matter how many techniques you know. Like, as soon as the gun's in your face and you freeze, Like that's it. It doesn't matter how many techniques you know. Like it's over.
You
So
have to desensitize the individual.
no, exactly. There's a psychological term. It's like stress inoculation training. Um,
Right.
and basically preparing the individual to handle and overcome stress. And what's more stressful than a violent encounter?
Right.
So if we're giving people tools to defend themselves, their training has to encompass that.
There's always there is no one way, and that's what I think people tend to forget. There is a way, but there is no one way. And what works for me or you and vice versa isn't going to work for everybody else. And then that's where, as a community of martial artists, we fail as a community. It's, well, you're doing this wrong. No, you're doing this wrong. No, you're doing this wrong. And we tend to rely so much on the cloth and the paper on our walls to be our measuring stick, as in our guide of survival. Like, oh, I'm a 9th degree, 10th degree. I studied in Okinawa, I studied in Korea, and all of these things make me an expert. But
I'm
there's
sorry.
things that
Your address does not make you an expert. I'm
no,
sorry.
your address, no, not in any capacity. And it doesn't. Your instructor doesn't make you an expert. Your lineage doesn't make.
No, you know what? Like lineage doesn't matter. Like, you know what? Let me take that back. Yes, you're right. So let me clarify. Lineage is important to ensure that the art is being transmitted properly, right? And there are some things, like a lot of martial arts training is built on self-discovery, but there are some things that you can only learn through Jikiden. You can only learn through hands-on direct transmission. And that's where lineage is important. Right. Where lineage doesn't matter is if I get attacked tomorrow, you as my instructor, you're not going to come down here and save me. Like right. my training, my conditioning, like that, I am the only person that I can rely on.
Well, this is where lineage matters. If you want to be one of those people that want to be a living historian, and you want to, maintain a specific martial art, for its classical reasons or just because of the love of the art, those things really matter. And then that's just kind of how it is. But in general, that lineage doesn't matter because it's not what's going to save your ass. It just isn't. Right. And so, that's like run into that issue.
I mean, I have never seen a fight or an attack break out and the guy go, hold on, don't attack me. I train with Hoist Gracie. And the attacker go, oh, well, never mind. Like that's not how it works.
I've never had anybody walk into my school or call my school and ask me and say, hey, who is your instructor? Who did you train with? Oh, no, you trained once. You trained under this person? No, that's not what I'm looking for. They always ask, basic questions. How long are the classes? How much are the classes? That's it. Yep. They don't ask style I teach. They don't care because they think all martial arts is the same.
Yeah, they do. There's this ignorance of the general public of what martial arts is, about different styles.
I wouldn't say ignorance. I wouldn't say ignorance. I would say it's a negligence, and that is because of the community. We don't educate the community enough.
No, not at all. Actually, I have a funny story for you. So one of the things that you and I were talking about, where I'm trying to get this contract teaching self-defense for a university, one of the other instructors who applied and sent in a proposal, they listed on their resume that they are a black belt in MMA.
Awesome. Nice.
I mean, didn't know MMA had belt ranks, but
maybe they do. Maybe they don't.
But here's the thing. One, I feel bad for this individual because they were lied to, and two, the person that they sent the proposal to has no idea. They have no idea what they're looking at. They have no idea what they're reading. They see that this person has a black belt. That person has a black belt. This person is trained in one art I can't pronounce. This person's trained in another art I can't pronounce, and it's all karate.
But what they see is MMA, and they go, "That's what I want."
No, it's true. They see MMA, they see BJJ, they see Krav Maga, and they see these buzzwords, that like they think mean something. Um, Quality control, like, is a thing. Like, I can't think of two schools that teach the same art that are the same quality, let alone across the multitude of styles that we have. So judging an individual based on their style really means absolutely nothing.
Well, it's the same thing as belt. No black belts are equal. Like
There aren't even two black belts in the same school that are equal.
right. You have Johnny down the street that's a fifth degree, and then you have me that's a fifth degree. We don't match. We're just not the same. And everybody
No.
goes, "Oh, well, you're a black belt fifth degree. You're a black belt fifth degree. You're a black belt eighth, whatever.
Right.
Aren't you guys the same?" No, we're not the same. Not in
No.
any capacity.
No. And that's one of the things, like rank only exists to measure your progress. Yeah, to measure your progress within the particular school or organization based on their standards, and that's it. Like,
Their standards, they're the hierarchy, the chief, their standard,
yep,
and
yep,
that's where people make the mistake.
yep. It's like, my rank doesn't matter. I do my best not to talk about my rank. It doesn't matter. What matters is the information, the skill level, the ability to articulate what you do. I mean, there are so many things that are more important than the piece of cotton around my waist or the piece of paper on my wall that I can only partly read. These things don't matter. But the public, they get lost in these trappings. So, going back to the whole self-defense aspect, where there's this what you call a negligence, the lack of information that they have about martial arts. They have no idea what they're looking at. So they walk into a school, they see lots of trophies, they see certificates, they see a lot of stripes on the instructor's belt, and they go, "Oh, well, you must be an expert, so I'm going to trust you." And when we're talking about self-defense, that's a really dangerous game to play.
I agree.
When we're talking about self-defense, like, you are putting your life in that instructor's hands. And
here's the issue.
Okay.
Here's the issue. You're 100%. Here's the issue, though. The issue is that they don't care. They want to feel good. The difference is, so it's like, they want McDonald's right now. Legitimately, yes. They want McDonald's, and they want their kids to have those chicken nuggets right now. They don't want to wait. They don't want to be told, "No, you can't have this." They want to walk in. They want to put on a uniform, put on a shirt, hit some bags, and go, "Good job, Johnny and Susie. Great job. You're ready to defend yourself.
Right.
Here's $100." That's what they want.
No, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. Like, in the first episode we talked about it. The average person doesn't want actual self-defense training when they realize everything it encompasses. Like training is not supposed to make you feel good. It's not supposed to comfort you. Yes, your progress will make you feel good. Your progress will empower you. But the actual training, like, being attacked is one of the scariest and most stressful things that I can think about. And in order for you to survive that and overcome it, you have to experience as close as we can safely simulate in the dojo as possible.
So why not? Take a few seconds and just kind of touch on this. Because people don't really know us all that well per se. Think about when you came to Columbus and you took the exam.
Oh my God!
I went to my office and I had my gigantic shotgun, my hunting shotgun. And what did I do? I racked the shotgun. We have it on video. Racked the shotgun. Everybody, you included, looked at me like, "What in the hell are you doing?"
Right.
And then we talked about the knife being thrown into the floor. And then you doing martial arts all this time, and aside from coming down working with me, we finally got you on a gun range, and we started going through like gun disarms and with live ammo and those kind of things. So talk a little bit about that, like just about what you experienced.
It's an entirely different world. Like I said, like myself included, way back then, like, we as martial artists assume, because we're doing something in the dojo, we're doing counterattacks, we're doing wrist escapes and choke escapes and one-step drills, punch counters. Like, okay, cool, I'm learning self-defense, But like, I remember walking into your dojo and all of a sudden you rack the gun, put it in my face, and you're like, by the way, this is a real gun. Now, there wasn't a real ammunition, crazy, not stupid. But just the fact of having cold steel, like touching my forehead, was something I had never experienced before. And like, it's shocking. And for someone to train their entire life in a dojo with like the our orange rubber gun or the rubber knives, and that's all they're ever exposed to. They get out in the real world. The very first time someone pulls a real blade on them, just the shock factor alone is going to negate any training that they might have had.
Well, and that's 100%. You look at just in general the idea of what self-defense encompasses, like what we were talking about a little bit ago, is that how far are we willing to take this? I mace my students. That there's videos on Facebook of me macing my students. I mace little kids. Now, granted, yeah, people are like, oh my God, that's wrong. But their parents are standing there recording this. They watch this. Why? Because look at all the riots. Look at all the stuff that's going on. They're preparing these children to be ready to deal with these things.
Now, that being said, you have to actually build the culture in build the culture in your school, where people understand why you're doing these things. Like, I can guarantee you someone's going to listen to this, go, oh my God, like Steve Hatfield, like he maced a little kid. Like, that's completely out of context. No, like
context, right. But the reason for, like, legitimately, like, let me just explain it real quick. So yes, I mace adults and I mace children. I'm not going to walk up to a 6-year-old and just spray a can of mace in his face. I'll teardrop him. I do all these different things. Kids eat hot Cheetos way hotter than some of this stuff anyway. Yeah. Like, it's not exposed to these things. And, there's been numerous times where I've had situations where parents have come back to me and been like, man, Sensei, thank you. Like, I wasn't really 100% okay with you spraying my kid, but this helped him in this situation. Right. Or I've had students that have been sprayed in the middle of situations at work where it's been beneficial for them.
No. I mean, that's 100%. The idea is that we train hard and we put you through the worst possible scenario possible, so that when you are attacked and you do get into a fight. I remember about a year ago, I had a student of mine get into a fight in high school, and like, he came back to the dojo. He's like, Sensei, like, you guys in the dojo hit me way harder than he did, and he was able to walk away and he was prepared. I mean, so yeah, like, the training sucks. The training is hard. The training breaks you down mentally, physically, all of it, psychologically, but it makes you better. The problem is people don't want it. People don't want to train that hard. People don't want to feel uncomfortable. People don't want to, if they have a past experience, how many times have we done a women's self-defense seminar where we're going through different drills, and all of a sudden this one woman, like, they'll start breaking down crying because they have that experience.
Right. Here's a question then. Does that make us wrong for the way that we do things? Does that make us? Are we alienating ourselves from the entire martial arts community because we push things over and Lord knows I'm for it.
You know what? So we're almost out of time, but I definitely want to address this. Maybe I'm biased. No, I don't think we're wrong. But I think that is what separates us, what separates our goals, and yeah, the level of training may alienate some people. There's this, the Cobra Kai attitude in the dojo, right? Like, the ones who can't survive, they're not worthy of it. But
there's a mix. I got you.
But no, it's good, better, and different. I think it's important, one, for the information to be out there, two, to know, for people to know that there are those who train this way, and the ones who truly need it will seek it out. And
I got it. Maybe we are the preppers of martial arts community.
The preppers of martial arts.
Like you think about all the crazy people that were prepping all those years. Now look at us. We're like them.
You know what? The preppers of martial arts. I believe we have the title of our next episode.
That's what's up.
All right. Well, listen, Sensei. I think this is great. I think we covered a lot of good topics. I can't wait to see what the response is going to be. Guys, any questions, comments, concerns? Leave them below. Anything you want to say before we jump off here?
No, not really. I think it'll be interesting. I think we should definitely, when you guys come down in March, we should definitely do some live episodes while you're here and get some video of you and your students doing some training and some other stuff. So, and then that way they have.
I'm looking forward to that trip. It's been way too long since I've been up there.
All right, man. I'll catch you later, buddy.
All right, sounds good. Talk to you later, Sensei.